Hello, everyone, and hello, Vandi. I am Christina, and
Hello.
hi, and I'll be doing an interview for the platform Womb. Um, and the Womb is actually an Indian e-platform
hmm
that I got into by working with Philia, which is an global female empowerment platform. And I did an interview with their CEO, Nicole, which was published for Womb. And so I got into Womb, but I was really curious about what they do because I know so little about the female situation, let's say, in India. And I was looking into it, and they're practically a community that brings people together who are passionate about women's rights and gender
hmm
justice. So I'm like, okay, yeah, let's find out more about that. Definitely. And okay, and they hope to create a space for women issues in the media, which are often neglected and mostly negative. And I think this links pretty well with what you're doing. uh,
Yes.
because you are giving voice to women specifically. I think based on what I understand to be your background as an Indian growing up woman. I'm not sure how long you've been there, so let's get into the details. Tell me more about your life in India.
Well, thank you, Christina, for inviting me today. To begin with, I would like to introduce myself to the viewers. I am Wendy. I live in Berlin, was born and raised in India, and then I moved and I lived in uh, half the globe, so I think I'm a global citizen. I've been living in many countries now, and my last stop is Berlin. Um, I can say that traveling abroad and traveling across India, my perspective as a woman, Indian woman, it has changed a lot in the coming years. When I grew up there, I thought everything was okay and it was the best that I could get. And then I realized when I moved out that no, it's not. It's not enough. That's the thing I've written also in my book about so many women that I met. But actually, the book is a women's fiction. But to tell you, it's real life incidences that I've noted down in the book. It's documented the real stories of women who
Yeah.
work in India and who really don't have rights. I mean, they are in some particular situation really stuck bad, but they have no hopes to go back to their families and ask for help.
Yes,
Small
and the
things.
book is called The Indian Daughters. I really love this title, and
Yes.
because I am a daughter, and I assume that I would have daughters one day, let's say.
Mm.
But also, we are all daughters, daughters of fathers, daughters of mothers, and this position is really interesting in the sense of the dynamics that we have with previous generations and how we learn from what happened before and how we take this lead. Because being a daughter means that you're taking an inheritance which you have no
Exactly.
clue about. Apparently, we inherit that while still being in the womb. And we're like,
Exactly.
okay, 7 generations on us of information. And we're like, well, how are we going to navigate ourselves? And we have to navigate with that inheritance. And we also have to navigate with the times we're living in. And let's face it, we're living quite intense times. But so I'm really into also how you got to this, and if you actually treat about this passage of inheritance, I would say, which is heavy stuff, let's say. And they also, by the heaviness, I guess, when they're being let go, they also uplift us
Yeah.
in a certain way. So there is a sense of liberation while working with all this, I would assume.
I would tell you how it all started. While growing up, my mom told me I was a second daughter. I have an elder sister and a younger brother. So my mom told me that I am privileged enough to live because she was actually thinking of aborting the baby because I was a woman, because I was a girl. So being a girl in Indian society is really not a blessing, it's a curse. So when you start from a point like that, you start thinking about every small details. And women's rights, it is absent. It does not exist in a country like India. Like people say today a lot of things and people argue on this subject, but I think that being a woman and the place where I was raised and the stories I've seen, I think when I was writing a book, I did a little research and I realized that more than 80% of the women I met in my life, the Indian women, they actually accepted that they were actually sexually harassed or molested at some point.
As part of life, no?
Yeah,
As part
yeah,
of how,
yeah,
this is how it is, kind of thing.
exactly. And it's normal in Indian society. It's normal to be, and all the rules are laid down by men in the society, and we are so much abided by the rules. We are not even allowed to ask questions.
Yeah.
So this actually led me to write a book, and I was collecting information from many women that I met, and they thought that injustice was okay.
Yeah.
They just accepted, okay, this is how it is, and how do we fight back? Because there is no resources, there is no outlet, there is no way, no platform for women to
So it
fight
wasn't
today.
necessarily about, okay, what is the next step that we can take? It was also something like, oh, we haven't even thought about this.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that many women, like really educated women, they accept it. They accept the injustice because they don't know the other way around. They don't know there's option for it. And women who has actually found out, they are labeled as rebels. You know, eventually they get away from this, or they are stuck, or they're confused, or they just live by it. Like,
Yeah.
I think that all of this is one huge subject and a topic to debate about. But also, we need a lot of platforms, you know, for so that many women can speak about it. We can raise our voices. And I myself, I'm working on a platform where women can raise their voices, because if you research, there is no newspaper, no media actually is dedicated to this topic.
Yes.
We have a lot of media outlets who actually have a small department or small, you know, small corner where they start speaking about women's rights, but we don't have a page or just something that is dedicated to women, you know,
Right.
a mainstream media, I would say.
Yes.
So this
And
is
I
also
was
something
wondering
to be.
if you can give us a bit before we get a bit farther into the what needs to be done, because we're going to touch again on this point for sure in our discussion. About if you can give us a snippet of the book, a bit of maybe one of the stories that you would like to share us from a real life, so we'd get a bit of like rawness of the situation, get a bit into the practical side and experiential side of life, actually.
Yeah. So in my book, I have written about three girls. They're actually the protagonists, and they have their different stories of how they landed up in prostitution in the first place. But one story that I would like to highlight here is a real life story of a girl who was married when she was 17 because they were very poor. So parents in India think that it's okay to get married. You know, what else we can do? We don't have money to educate the daughters, right? She was actually thrown into marriage without her consent, and she was raped by her husband every day. Eventually, she also had a baby from this from her husband, and she left this guy. She had no idea what she was going to do, but she just left this guy and to make it to the capital of the country. And she was trying to find a job, but she was molested because she was an easy prey, right?
Yeah, of course.
So, and this is very, very prevalent, very dominant in this in Indian society, to take
Especially when
advantage
your
of.
Parents are the people that you trust the
Yeah,
most. You're
and you cannot.
17, you
Yeah, and
still
you
haven't
cannot go
really
back.
figured out things, and you know that you
By the
trust.
time she was mother, she was 19, and she couldn't go back to her parents. She had nobody to go back to, and that eventually led her to prostitution. I mean, what else is she gonna do, right? So this is one of the stories that I've highlighted in my book, and the number of stories like that, like dowry deaths. We have
Yeah.
so many dowry deaths.
Yes.
Even educated people actually pay dowry, you know. And
Yes.
I think in India, women become doctors or engineers to actually find a richer husband.
Of
So
course.
it's not very career oriented, or they really they don't even know they want to be an engineer in the first place, but parents push them to be that because eventually it's all the dowry market that exists, you
Yes,
know.
and I think it's a bit also time to let people know that prostitution in these situations, and it's very much the situation in a lot of countries. I'm
Yeah,
talking African continent. I'm talking about Eastern European countries where I come from, because prostitution there is not a choice. It's not an
yeah,
option. It's something
yeah.
that you get into it because that is the only way that you
The
can
only
actually
way.
provide. This is the only way. And it's crazy
Absolutely.
to think about it from a privileged position. We are both living in Berlin. We know that we speak about people here and everybody has an opinion about these things. And of course, it's hard to explain to someone who has grown up with a privileged a bit position to
Yeah.
explain to them, look, it's not a choice. It's
Yeah.
you get into that for, you know, and we can take it even farther into human trafficking and so on. That is also not, it's just, you do whatever it takes. And when you take an opportunity because you need to support your family, you're 18, you're 17, you're 16, you're 20, you haven't grown, you don't know about anything maturely, no matter how developed spiritually you are, you can't really comprehend the world and you just want to survive.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think in reality, there are a number of women who are who are stuck in a position or situation like that, and they really don't know what to do because society is ruthless. We don't have any help from society. I'm even talking about young mothers. I mean, I myself, I'm a mother of a 3-year-old child, and I see that there is no help from the society. Um, we as a women, we are not taught to train men to help us. You know,
Yes.
that's also one reason why we are landing up in a situation that we are right now in currently, because I see so many young mothers, they're frustrated, even things about delivering the baby, pregnancy. This is a subject of education. We are not really educated about it. No, like when I go to the doctor with some physical pain after the child delivery, doctor says it's normal, but it's not, you
No.
know. And there's so many things that are small details that I've highlighted in the book, and I think that these things should be spoken about. Like we should have debates about it or some platform where people should speak about it. And
Absolutely.
I always meet women when they're having kids and all, and I ask them and I talk to them and I see that innocent me in them when they're having the first kid and all, and they know nothing about it,
How
like
old were you
absolutely.
when you had your first child?
uh, I was 28, but like when I say we don't know anything about it, what I didn't know about pregnancy, I think so many details once the baby is born, we are not educated about it. Like we are not told, and even like husbands, they don't take 100% responsibility, and it's not their fault. They just, as a society, we are not taught. Like they are not taught, you know,
Yes.
that they are also a part of it. And it's
Yes.
very natural, I think, because we are still so primitive, I think, that you know, and everybody still thinks that it's a woman's role as a mother, you know, to nurse the baby, and
Yeah.
father's role is not so important, though so many countries have understood this, and you know, we are
Yes.
trying to highlight things, but it's
Yeah.
not
And
enough.
the
It's just
situation
a
reminds
beginning.
me that the other day I was looking in my yard from my window in the kitchen, and there is this classical story of mother, father, and a small child. And the small child starts to, I don't know, the mother is distracted by something, and the small child wants to go back to the mother and starts a bit whining or something.
Yeah.
And I just observed the father being completely overtaken by the situation, totally confused, trying to offer some kind of toys, not working, not insisting on it. And you just see that there is no connection between father and child. That's absolutely, like, he was oblivious of what he should do in that
Yeah.
situation because education, because
Yeah.
why would I be there, because the mother does everything. And I do agree that
Exactly.
we need to touch also on the subject of the fact that it's not men's fault, it's how they
It's
are
not.
raised. And I'm coming from a matriarchal line. I'm the fourth generation of matriarchal women who have taken the lead in their family, but still the education with boys is the same. Like my
Yeah.
brothers both are the same. They don't participate in the child's education. They spend very little time. They don't know how to connect. They're completely
Yeah.
alienated from the children. And it's like you're having a father there, but you're not really having a father.
Yeah.
It's very
Yeah.
bizarre because you don't really get in contact with this masculine
Yeah.
aspect of life, and it's really crazy. And I was wondering if also this is something that propelled you to start writing your second book, because as I understand it's called Opportunities for Young, and you
Yes.
want to sort of address what can young women do, or what can young women and men do. How are you taking on it?
My second book, I'm writing that only because many people in India today, they think, especially after COVID crisis, they say that, oh, we have no jobs. You know, I don't understand this little when people say that we don't have work or we don't have job. There's so many things to fix around.
Yes.
So many things that you can take a lead and create so many opportunities. And the young people, they're so lost in this country. And
Yeah.
I think with this book, I'm just trying to help young people by, directing them or guiding them, because there is no guidance, no education system available that can actually help someone to look beyond employment opportunities. And I
Yes.
think this is one thing that is lacking. And this book is for both women and men, all young people in the country, because India is the most young nation in the world.
Oh,
And
really?
yeah, so we
Wow.
have highest number of young people in the world, but they are helpless.
Yeah.
There's just absolutely no help.
Also because they're
Uh,
bubbled up, I have a feeling that they all stay in the same bubble. They don't really
yeah,
get
it's
how is the traveling outside? Are Indian youth going outside? Is there such a, is it already becoming part of culture to go experience the world?
this generation, I would say, yes, they are pretty much going out and looking around, and they're trying to accept things and pick up things and trying to change things around. But if you go back to India, it's not really that easy to change anything.
Yeah.
All our education system has collapsed. People are looking for jobs, and people don't know what to do beyond jobs.
Yeah.
So, like when I'm saying entrepreneurship, it's not. It is really in their heads, but they don't know. They don't have a direction.
Yes.
All of our system, when it comes to starting companies and promoting businesses, it's not really that great as we have in Berlin. So this
Yes.
is also one factor why we are lacking in this stuff.
Yes. And I'm really curious because I read in your WordPress
Mm-hmm.
that women entrepreneurs, why is it important to look for this is as a woman is because it offers independence, and then
Yeah,
we're less vulnerable and
yeah.
prone to exploitation. Can you develop a bit if this was how was your process with it and understanding that?
Um, when I was 19, I was working with a PR company in Mumbai, where my boss, he came straight to me and he asked me to sleep with me, and I told him no.
You
And
mean directly, as in you need to sleep?
yes, yes, directly. He was
I mean,
not
I'm
even
smiling,
hesitant.
but I
I
want
know,
to, in my
but
head, I'm kicking his face with a
but
baseball
I
bat.
think it's very important for me to speak about this. I was a kid when that thing happened with me, and I lost my job, and there was nobody that I could turn to. I couldn't go back to my parents. I couldn't tell anyone about this because I tried to speak with my mentors, my teachers, my school, and they said it was my fault, and I should be bold enough to handle the situation. And how do I handle it? By sleeping with him? That's what they meant. I don't know. So, and this
Mm,
person was a very powerful person in Bollywood. So, and I know that
mm,
there's so many young girls were exploited like me. So I was completely on the street. He did not pay me for like last 6 months.
oh
And I
my
didn't know what, yeah. And in India, we don't have like rights to go to the police or go to the court. Like, and who would do that, right?
yes,
So there, absolutely, I was helpless, and I decided to move on. And but situation like that, it actually clicked me that if I have my own company, nobody is gonna ask me for such kind of favors in the first place.
yes,
I have to think about how I can develop, and I think from a women's point of view that instead of asking for a job, maybe we create jobs.
yes,
This is also one point where we are not so developed as men are. You find only 20 to 30% of women in entrepreneurs in the world, when
yeah,
there are 70% and more men. And why they don't give us opportunities? Because we ourselves, we are not active. We think about small businesses. Oh, let me start like a small bakery or small this. Why don't
yeah,
we start something big? Why don't we think about, like, I always, in my book, I pointed out that top 10 rich people in the world are men, and they are
yeah.
half of them are self-made men. But women, there's only one woman who's inherited wealth from her father.
Oh
So
gosh.
yeah, so I think this is also something to think about, that why aren't we creating something like Microsoft or Facebook? It's not like we don't have capabilities, we have, but I think it's more than that. It's more
Yeah,
a social issue. Society in a way is not able to help us, and
yeah.
society tried to keep us very primitive in the
Yes, and
nature,
to be honest, I think it's inevitable that we're going to get there. And I think it's inevitable to also put on the table the subject of how we as women educate ourselves, how we learn from this mistake, and we don't perpetuate the same patterns. Because if we're in a big company and we're this, I don't know, this classical, I don't know, boss woman that asks young boys to sleep with her, that's also not gonna work, right? So we're not paying back with the same. We're trying to create a different, totally different world. And I think women need to, I always want to drag a bit attention to this, of how we educate ourselves and how we work when we want to get there, and how sure we are of the, let's say, the honesty of our hearts when we do this. And not let sort of transform, I would say, the anger that we have into some kind of a positive energy, that is rather creative rather than exploitative, which is the essence of female energy in general. And here I think we arrive at a really cool subject, which is your favorite subject, which is women in general, as I understand. And I would like to ask you actually, how do you see this female energy? How do you feel it in yourself as you grew up, and how did it develop, and how you became the woman you are today, and what you would say what is a woman in 21st century, 2020? Yes. What does it mean to be a woman in a woman body, let's say, because there's so much more than this, right?
I think that women is very powerful, and it is stupid to say that we are equal to men, because we are not. We are far more superior than men. Let me tell you that. And I have always been, stuck on this line that we are far more superior than men. We should not fight for equality, because it's not ambitious. I mean, let's be ambitious and, fight for something more. Also, when I think about 21st century women, right now it's a very good time that we are speaking out and we have platforms to speak, somebody somewhere is like us and who wants to hear us more, and we're trying to create change, and it's a good time. I mean, we live in this time where everything is possible. If I would say, I couldn't say this 20 years ago in the 90s, it was impossible still. But today, I think we are blessed with so much technology and so much innovation that yes, it's possible for us to really touch the topics that we couldn't speak about.
But what do you think is the actual, like, how do you see this play between male and female energy? Because you're also a meditator, you meditate with Vipassana, and I'm not sure how through that, because it's more about training attention, but I guess when we train our attention, we also choose where to pay attention to, and how to guide these energies.
I think that women is full of love and compassion. So definitely, if women leads more, we will definitely create a world which is much better than that we have today when men are ruling. So when we're talking about energy of a women, like, we are full of love and compassion. We have so many things to give to the world. I am sure that if you put like few women in the box and few men in the box, the violence is not as much as, in the men's box. I mean, we are definitely different. And it's just that we need to reach that level of spirituality as well to understand who we really are, because the day we realize our real strength, like I realized my real strength when I delivered a baby. So when I produced my child, I realized that I have so much strength, so much energy, and whatever I want in the world, I can actually achieve it. Because if I can do this, if I can produce a baby, it's so hard to do that. And if you can produce a baby, imagine how many things you can do in the world. But eventually, we are not able to tap our power. And why we're not able to tap our power, I think it's also because society has kind of diverted our attention in so many issues that, staying in the kitchen or, doing household chores, so that we don't really dedicate our energy to something else.
Totally. So, and don't get me wrong. I mean, I love doing stuff in the house, not necessarily in the kitchen, but for example, when I clean, I love this process because it is not imposed on me, and it's never been imposed on me. Like my mother told me all the time when I was in the house and I wanted to help her, she would be like, no, you're going to have your time to do this. You're relaxed right now. She was kind of, well, in a way she helped me out, but in a way I was completely oblivious. When I was 16 and I left home, I was like, how am I going to cook for myself? So I had to learn everything from scratch, which was good because I learned my way of doing things. And the thing is that I do enjoy cleaning, and I think there are women who do it with a lot of passion, a lot of love. But when that is the difference. It's not that the women are going to stop doing food and clean the house and do what they do. The roles may not necessarily change, but the love with which they are done can change everything. Because when
think
it is
that
a force thing, there is no love there. There is only force, there is imposing, there
exactly,
is restriction, there is tension, there is all
yeah,
this negative shit that make us feel trapped and in a prison of what we're doing, rather than
absolutely.
enjoying it and bringing love. You know, food made with love is the best food in the
Is
world.
exactly. So that's I completely agree to this, that when someone is not forcing us to be in particular role is the best thing to do. We do so much of it with love, but as soon as there's restrictions and barriers, and we start playing that particular role, a very primitive role, and we are forced to do that, it really changes a woman. Trust me, it changes a woman. I've seen so many women in India facing really, really bad shit in their life, but they have to do it, and they continue to do it because they have no other options to do it. And they're really bright women. I know some students, bright students from the school, who ended up in the kitchen and they're not allowed to get out of the kitchen. How does that feel, right? So it's also about interest. So
Yeah.
I am not saying that being in a kitchen is really wrong for a woman, or taking care of kids is. No, we are passionate. We love to do it. I mean, we have so much love. We are main caregivers, right? We care for our families, and we love to do it. But as soon as that role is twisted and we are forced to do it, it's no more that love left.
Exactly. And we're also really creative. I think we have this
Yeah.
creative capacity, and somehow I think it is connected to this female energy. And I would say it does come with love. For what it has
Mm-hmm.
been revealed to me is that love is a feminine, mostly feminine energy,
Mostly.
which has to be activated, of course, as much as possible in males. And that is part of education, how we're going to educate men in the future, and how we're all educating them now. And I think there is a misunderstanding about what this love is, because it's
Mm.
so, love, whatever. But
I
it's
will
not
just
really
give
what it is.
you I will just give you a small example of what's happening today in the world. If you see the women leaders who are leading the countries, the nations, they are leading during the COVID-19 crisis. Uh, Nations with women leaders are really doing well. If you see an example, but that shows actually how much women is capable of. That shows actually how women can handle crisis, in a very different way than the men
Yes.
leaders. So this is also one energy that
Yes.
I would like to focus on, that, there's so much love and compassion in everything that we do. And if we really know and guide ourselves in a way to do anything, we can be more successful than men. And this also makes me again come back to the point that we are not equal to men, because we do things differently.
Yes, and when it comes to crisis, handling crisis, I think you're right, and I'm glad you brought it up, because I have the experience of working with male guided groups, collectives, so on, and just for example, when some feedback comes from exterior that they're not doing necessarily something good, which the feedback came from a woman saying, look, you don't really represent women correctly, and there was such a
Mm,
big fuss, and they were so angry on it, and I said, and I was trying to raise this awareness of this is a moment when we are pushed by someone, by a woman, to step up and to make
yeah,
ourselves better, because this is the force behind it. The force behind it, the feminine force over handling a crisis is,
right.
okay, I have somebody telling me something that I'm not doing okay. This is a
Mm,
moment when I can stop and think, okay, what can I change? I'm reassessing my whole life. I'm reassessing how I'm working. I'm reassessing who I am, a bit of my beliefs, and therefore I can say, oh, thank you for this nudge, because then I can think about it differently,
yeah,
and I want to be better at what I'm doing now. Uh,
exactly.
but not in the sense, there is a difference between when it comes from this space of love, of I genuinely want you to do better, when it comes from
Mm,
the space of this really kind of like contaminated
mm-hmm,
energy, when it's more of I want you to do this, and then I want you to come back to me so I can tell you, good, you've done it because I've told you so, right? So there is a bit of a difference, because a female energy goes with, okay, thank you for this, you don't have to tell me anything, just as long as I see that
exactly.
you're progressing, it's enough for
Yeah,
my heart to know that. So
yeah,
there's a big difference, nuances in there for sure.
yeah. I think that women has played a very important role in the human evolution, but we've not got enough credit.
Yeah,
And
that's
because
also
we
true.
were always we were always suppressed, we were always put behind, or
Raped and
our
burned.
yes. So I think that is also one thing. But whatever, like we as humans are collectively, it's like in 80 to 90% is because of women. So we should not really fight for only our rights, but we should fight to bring our power, the real energy out. And we should explore more about our capabilities, because I think we are capable of doing things that we don't know.
Yes,
Yeah.
totally. And how we pay attention to things, and how what has Vipassana taught you so far, and how do you integrate in your life? And
Uh, when I was 25, I was introduced to Vipassana the first time. Eventually, I was working in corporate, and I will tell you this incident because how it is Vipassana helped me. So I formed my company in when I was 27, and I went for one meeting in Warsaw. It was a very high profile meeting with some ambassadors and with diplomats and stuff. And when I went there, they asked me, "Oh, but where's your team? You look so young. Like, where's your team?" And I said, "I am the CEO of the company. Who do you want to meet?"
I am the
They said,
team.
"Oh, yeah," because they were expecting some old women, or maybe a group of men, or just one man heading, right?
Or a
Uh,
masculine woman.
yeah, I would rather say that they were looking for someone with authority, because women cannot have authority, and they were so surprised that how can a small girl like that can handle a big decision like that, right? So this was also one thing, and so I said that no, I am the CEO, and when I said that I'm the CEO of the company, they were so shocked, and so I think. When I came to Europe, I realized that even Europe is far more behind when it comes to women's rights. And like, okay, it's developed compared to the Indian society, but they don't want to see women in this position. Like, young women have no image. I mean, if a guy who's 19 goes back to the investor and tells about his idea, he's probably applauded, he will probably get the investment. But a young woman goes, everybody is gonna like look at her with a doubt. So this is also something. And in European society, I've seen there is no way that young women can lead the company. It's impossible. You will find a lot of leaders today, but they're not really accepted. And I know how much they struggle because I've been through that.
Yeah.
So I was like, usually it's like my husband's mom, because my husband is Polish, and his mother is an entrepreneur too. She had her company from 17, 18 years. So when she goes for a meeting with me, it's a completely different thing. So you trust a woman who's old enough, but you don't want to trust a woman who's young and who has ideas. So this shows the hypocrisy of even a European society in a way.
Yeah.
So this was one thing that I realized that was the biggest challenge for me in Europe,
Yeah.
and I'm still struggling actually. If I have an
Yeah.
idea, it's not very easy for me to speak about my ideas, because I know they are not welcomed here. If I was a man, probably they would, and people listen to men, young men, very genuinely, because they think, oh, he might be next Mark Zuckerberg, but they don't want to
Yeah.
listen to women.
And it's really really shocking, because from Eastern Europe I was like, fine, I'm going to the West. I'm going to the West where I'm going to be heard. I'm going to say my opinion. I'm going to say it loud, and finally I'm going to be able to speak and blah blah blah, and all these dreams about Western
Yeah.
Europe. Yay. And I lived also in England for a few years, so I'm speaking both Berlin and England.
Mm,
And no, actually, it's not. It was
it's
very
not like that.
shocking, because
Yeah.
as soon as, like, there is a, for example, an intensity of how you say your opinion. If you say it at
Mm-hmm.
three out of 10, it's fine. You get
Mm-hmm.
a bit of approval. Maybe other women will
Mm-hmm.
approve you. Maybe some kind of guys that know you, or like
Yeah.
hang out with you and so on, or have a discussion in the, I don't know, cigarette pause or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
But beyond that, when you've passed the 5 out of 10 high I don't know, like a properly argumented point of view, and you really go with it, and you voice
Mm.
your opinion. You're not just voicing an opinion, you're making a point from a perspective
Yeah.
where you stand. You come from your experience, and it's
Yeah.
sometimes met with this, sometimes, very often met with not only silence but also rejection and distance. and sort of like the question of why can't you be like anybody, like everybody else, which was addressed to me so often that I completely, because I wasn't expecting that I'm gonna meet something like this in Western Europe.
Yeah.
So it went back at me, and I was, am I actually doing something wrong? You know, I've asked myself as we speak about this female energy, which is sometimes, first of all, we're going to ask ourselves, am I actually in the right position here? We check in with our hearts, we align our hearts with our minds, and we come back into it and say, no, look, that was actually coming from a good place. And, you know, not let that bring us down, but it's shocking. It is shocking.
So when this happened with me, I think only Vipassana helped me to realize, because there was so much anger inside me to understand the situation and why people are not accepting me in that particular role. And then I realized only Vipassana could calm me down. And I just think that with Vipassana, I just have to keep observing the things the way they are, and I don't really need to react. So I keep improving myself, and I know one day I will reach that goal of mine, but I don't need to have it right away, right here, right? So when people ask me questions and when people reject me, it's fine. So I think Vipassana is the most important thing that has helped me to, you know, understand situation better. And I always think from that person's point of view, like I also did a research on how many women are on the position of, like, in the, you know, the chief executive officers, and in Europe you should be 65 and plus. Usually they're men who are the decision makers, which is very, very strange for me. And the European society is so different from American society. In the US, usually they accept somebody on this high position to be young enough, but in Europe 80 to 90% of the times not. You can do this research yourself and you will realize, and it's very shocking. And the worst is nobody speaks about this, you know. So all the feminists who speak about, I don't know, well, why, where are they right now? And why don't they speak about this? Or why don't we come collectively together and do something about it? So
I think we're making a few steps, I would say. Even a step like this goes far into the future. And the change happens with very small steps. I have learned that in my life, definitely. And each one contributing a big change is the big picture. So the expectation of a big change and everybody at the same time having this general awakening is not going to happen. We do this in terms, and life is about doing things in terms. And I think we've come to the end of our session. And I think we've talked a lot. It seems like we would have a lot more to talk about. It was an absolute pleasure to share this time with you. I definitely encourage everyone to look into your stuff and to look into your books and to check out your site, which we're going to probably provide on. The womb is going to actually provide all the information to you. I'm just doing the interview. So yeah, thank you so much, Mandy. This was an absolute pleasure. Have a good time writing the second book. Yay! Bring those advices to the young, because we got to do that. We got to be the mothers of this world, don't we?
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you for connecting, and thank you for this interview.
Thanks so much. Bye bye.
And talk to you later again. Bye bye.
Yes, absolutely.